Hello everyone, welcome to the second part of this tutorial which talks about how to pose your character. So let's first assign a new material to this background so we can see the definition between the background and the character. Right click and say assign favorite material. Just let's just choose a Lambert. I'm just gonna rename this to SH as in shader. And then I'm gonna just call this one VG1. Hit enter, and then I'm gonna change the color. Done. Then I'm gonna hit 5, 6. Okay. Hit 6 to see the definition. Okay. And I'm just gonna save this. Don't forget to save it. Okay. So this is my pose scene, and what I'm going to do here is that, so to pose your character, the first thing that you need to know is besides posing your character, you also need to choose the camera, right? So the direction that you look at your character, as you can see, you're always working in this perspective camera. Is important too, right? Like if I have a pose for this character and the camera is like this, then I'm not going to be able to see and appreciate the pose that I created, right? So what we're going to do here is that we're going to create a new camera, and we're going to just call it the render camera, because that's going to be the camera that we're going to use for render images, right? So if you go to the outliner, you can see that every scene that you create in Maya, it comes with this default cameras, right? And they are grayed out because they're default cameras and you don't want to delete them, right? So this is the perspective camera. This is the top view, front, and side, which you can get to them by going to this 4-side view panel layout, right? And you can see that the name of the camera is gonna show up here, right? So here it says PERSP, which is perspective, side X. Side X means that you're looking at the character in the direction of the X-axis, right? Front, which is Z in this case. You can see that here it shows Y and X. The axis that it doesn't show is Z, so you're looking through the Z-axis, right? And this is top, the Y-axis. You can see that you don't see the y-axis here because you're looking in the direction of the y-axis. You can see it all here too. Y is top, X is in this direction, and then Z is this, which is front, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new camera. We don't wanna, the reason is, so you wanna fix this character in a view and be like, oh, this is a really good angle. I want to pose the character in this angle, right? So if you use this perspective camera, you need to just look around and find a spot, and you want to be able to move around your character, but then your camera is going to change, right? You need to always go back in and be like, oh, was it this angle that I wanted? So what we're going to do is that instead of using this perspective camera for rendering, we're going to just create a new camera, and it's really easy. You can just go to panels, and then in the perspective, you can just call, you can just say in new. Okay, when you say new, look what happens. It just created a new perspective camera, right? So now you have 2 perspective cameras, and you can switch between them by going to perspective. Now you can see you have perspective 1 and perspective. Okay, so because we don't want to get confused with these 2 cameras, I'm just going to rename this to render caps lock CAM, render camera. Hit enter. Okay, you can see that if I click on this camera, the camera shape and everything is going to appear here, right? So this is going to be my render camera. And what you can do is, so the first thing you can see, you can make Maya show you what is this camera is going to show, and to do so you're going to turn on this icon, this little cutie thing here, resolution gauge. So if you click on it, it's just going to show you that if you render your object this is what you're gonna get in your image. This is the area that is gonna be rendered. So for example, if you have something like this, you're gonna be like, oh, this is not good. And then you can just go ahead and rotate your background to get rid of that empty spot, right? So make sure when you created the new camera, rename it, and then turn on this little thing that says resolution gauge. So which means this is like your frame, right? And the next thing you can do is when you, for example, hit tab on the keyboard, it's just going to bring you to this 4-view camera, right? Which, because we created this, now the render camera is going to show up here, right? So what we want to do now is we don't need this front and like side views that much when we want to do like posing the character. It's a good tool for it's a good preview for when you make the model, but when you want to pose it, you basically need like this one perspective view that you want to use to rotate around your character, and the other one that is going to be the camera that you want to do for rendering, right? So we're going to create a new layout, which is going to be like 2 sets of views side by side, and one of them is going to be your render camera. The other one would be like your normal perspective view, okay? And these are called this layouts. Like you can see, this is a layout. This is a layout of 4 panels, and this is a layout of 1 panel, as you can see here. This, for example, is a layout of 2 panels, okay? So I would say this is a good candidate for creating the layout that we want. You can see that it's already showing us this perspective view. The only thing is that for this one, it shows us the front view. For you, it might be a different thing. It doesn't matter that much. You can always change the camera that this panel shows by going to, and this is a panel, right? So you go to panels, you go to perspective, and you want to select the perspective because that's the camera you want to see through it, right? So you're just going to select the perspective. So this is the old perspective view that is here. So you can just look around your character, and then I'm going to just, okay. So these are both the same view now, okay? And you can see that it updates. So what we want to do is to set this one to be the render camera. Okay, so this is going to be the render camera, and this is going to be the perspective view. You can see the nice thing about it is that you can use this view to pose your character, and then you're going to look at the pose here and be like, oh, this is a good camera view. Maybe I want to rotate this. And if I move this arm, let's see how it looks like in this view. So this is going to be like your render view, right? And what you can do here, you can lock the camera so you don't accidentally zoom in or pan in this view. And it's really easy doing that. You can just click on this icon which shows the camera with a lock on it, okay? So, and you can always lock and unlock the camera. So I'm just gonna lock this. And then when I go in, I'm not gonna be able to move around in this one. And that's what I want, right? I want to use this view to pose the character, and then I want to use this one for rendering. And to go in between these 2 views, the same way that you did with this, you can use the keyboard shortcuts. If you hold your mouse on this view and just hit space on the keyboard, it's going to just bring you to that view. If you want to get out of it, hit space again, hold your mouse on this, and look at this, go back. You can also use this this icon to get back to okay. So this always brings you to the one that is already set. So don't use that because yeah, okay. Set this one, perspective, render camera. So let's just not use this because this is going to bring you to the perspective and the front view. So as soon as you set this, use the keyboard hotkeys to go in between them, right? And it's I think that's a good way. And later maybe I'll show you how to save this layout. I don't want to get this tutorial to get too complicated. So this is a way to do so for creating the layout. And now let's get to rendering. And for this part of the assignments, we're going to start by basic rendering engine that is embedded in Maya. We are not going to use RenderMan for this assignment because we don't want to make it too complicated. So let's say this is, I posed my character and this is the pose. This is not, actually this is a T-pose, but let's say you posed your character, okay. The first thing, never freeze transformation on a posed character, right? So when you pose this character and you want to render this image, what you can do is you should go to this icon here, which says display render setting. You're just going to click on it and it's going to open up. This is the render setting, right? So I'm just going to, is there a way to reset this so mine matches yours? Well, maybe not. Okay. So I can set some stuff here. Don't get hung up in the too many options that you see here. Don't pay attention to most of it. We're gonna just do basic stuff here. So when you open up this render setting, make sure you're in the comment tab and then go to first thing, renderable cameras. It's gonna be like, what is the camera you want me to render? So it's by default, it's set to perspective, which is this default one, but we wanna do this render camera here. So I'm just gonna click on it and set it to be render cam. And the next thing I wanna do is I'm gonna change this preset, the camera size, which is called the image size, right? The frame that you're seeing in here. So I'm just gonna say costume, maybe maintain width height ratio, which is gonna be the proportions of the height to the width. And then I'm gonna change this to the height to 1000. Yes. That's the only thing that you need to change for now, okay? So make sure you say maintain width and height ratio, because if you don't check this and you change the height, the width is not going to be changed with it, okay? Check this one first, and then for the height, just put 1000, okay? And set the renderable camera to render cam. The other thing you need to do is you need to set the render engine. Okay, so I have a couple of engines for rendering. You want to choose, let's start with Maya hardware. Okay, and so I'm going to just hit close. Then I'm going to go to this icon with an eye on it. I'm just going to click on it. It's just going to open it. So this is your render view. And before I hit render, I make sure that I have this use default lighting, because I didn't add any light to the scene. It's going to be all dark if you say use all lights or selected lights. Sorry about that. What is with my voice today? Excuse me. So make sure the lighting shows as use default lighting. And then here I'm just going to hit this icon which says render current frame. And as you can see, it is not showing the render camera. It shows, I think it's this camera. I'm just gonna hit 6. And if I turn on the, yes, this is the camera that it's showing. Okay, I'm just gonna turn off the resolution gate for the perspective camera that I'm gonna use for posing the character video. I don't wanna mix this two up, okay? So you can see that it is not rendering this one. So the way to do it is we need to tell it to render the render camera, not the perspective one, okay? So I'm just gonna go to render and say render cam, okay? This is the camera that we want to choose for rendering. Render cam, and then it's gonna show up. Okay, so when you post your character, you're happy with what you see here, you can do file and then save image, and because I've already set the project, it's gonna be open up in the images folder. Okay, just gonna name this like 01 pose 01, and I'm just gonna change the file type to, let's say, JPEG, and I'm just gonna save it here. And now the image is saved, and then you're gonna submit this image for the assignment. Yeah, I think that's all. Have fun.